Since Shweta is at home, she will take online or maybe recorded one. And what we discussed in the last class, different forms of government. Okay. So, kya form of government, right? Forms of government, right? Here we discussed how many forms of government? We discussed democracy, then republic, then monarchy या ऑटोक्रेसी. उसके बाद ओलिगार्की. ओलिगार्की किया था? नहीं. Now, if you look at democracy, democracy is a form of government where people rules, right? है ना? डेमोक्रेसी क्या हुआ था? कुछ लिखवा थे डेमोक्रेसी में? Rule by the people, right? Rule by people. It means the rule of majority, huh? Majority. और कुछ बताया था? नहीं? अच्छा. तो डेमोक्रेसी को थोड़ा सा ये करना है. Now, if you look at democracy, there are two types of democracy. अगर डेमोक्रेसी को हम डिवाइड करेंगे ना, there are two forms of democracy. One is called direct democracy. Right? And second is indirect democracy. Or it is called representative democracy. Representative democracy. Right? Now, if you look at direct democracy was available in ancient Greek, ancient Athens, there was a direct democracy. Now, if you look at PRI, Panchayati Raj Institution of India, or urban local body, urban government, yeah, local government. अच्छा है, अच्छा लिख लीजिए. Urban local government. These are the example of direct democracy. ठीक है. Direct democracy में क्या होता है? People engage themselves directly to govern themselves, right? They hold public office, they run administration, right? They run, the rule of law. They become judges, right? So in direct democracy क्या होता है? In direct democracy, people govern themselves. People govern themselves directly, right? And hold public office. Public office. ठीक है. In direct democracy में क्या होता है? Representative democracy में people actually participate, but only for the election, right? And what happens? The representative take all decisions in representative democracy. श्वेता आ गई है. Hi Shweta, good morning. I hope you are good at home. Am I audible to you? Hi, Shweta. Good morning. Am I audible to you? Either you can speak or you can write something. You have joined from mobile. Okay. See if you can speak something. Yeah. Otherwise, we are talking about the forms of government that last day we discussed, very briefly. Today, we need to discuss it in detail a little bit. She had been disconnected. ऑनलाइन में बड़ा इशू होता है इंटरनेट नहीं आ रहा है कभी सिस्टम काम नहीं कर रहा है anyway should we talk about hi Shweta all good it's all right if you are not able to speak if you're not able to write but I hope you are able to hear my voice right so I'm talking about different forms of government right in the last class we talked about democracy republic monarchy today I'll discuss more form of government right but before we actually discuss further the other form of government let me discuss a bit in detail about democracy right in the last class we talked about democracy is a rule by people right or the rule of majority. Hmm. If you look at democracy, there are two types of democracy traditionally. One is direct democracy, where people govern themselves directly and hold public office. Right, like ancient Athens, if you look at Panchayati Raj, urban local body, right? If you look at the local body or local self-rule government in the fifth schedule, sixth schedule area, they all are form of direct democracy. Right? You must have heard about the autonomous district council in northeastern region. है ना मिजोरम में है ना मेघालय में है they all are form of direct democracy. Now in direct democracy if you look at in direct democracy what happens in direct democracy people do not govern themselves but people govern themselves through the chosen representative right and that's why the indirect democracy is also called representative democracy right so in direct democracy people govern themselves through through elected representative people govern themselves through elected representatives right and this is why it is also called also known as representative democracy representative democracy this is a very modern form of government representative democracy is a modern one now if you look at the first time representative democracy evolved in the UK right UK representative democracy evolved and then later on if you look at everywhere there is a US France everywhere there is a representative democracy Now, if we divide representative democracy, right, again it has, three types. One is called presidential form of democracy. Presidential form of democracy, right? That is, available in the US, right? Latin American countries, right? Any countries that you name in Latin America, all are having presidential form of government, right? Like Brazil, Argentina, Chile, right? Now, other is called, अच्छा, presidential form of democracy में क्या होता है? President is the real power, है ना? And there is separation of power here, is a very much separation of power between the three organs of the government: legislature, executive, and judiciary, right? So these two are the essential feature of presidential form of government. क्या क्या होता है? लिख ही लेते हैं. The president is the real head of the government and also of the state, right? President has the real power, and that's why it's called presidential form of government or democracy. Now, second is separation of power is followed. Separation of power is followed in this type of democracy. Now, second form of democracy, representative democracy, is a parliamentary democracy. Parliamentary democracy. For example, if you look at the parliamentary democracy like UK, not US, UK, Canada, right? Australia, ठीक है, India, Pakistan, right? Or Italy, or Germany, or Japan. These all are the example of parliamentary form of democracy. Now, what happens in parliamentary form of democracy? There is a ceremonial figurehead. Ceremonial figurehead. President is a nominal head, right? So there may be ceremonial figurehead. Sometimes in like India, the president is a nominal figurehead, and prime minister is a real power holder. In parliamentary democracy, who holds the real power? The prime minister, right? And this parliamentary democracy is actually function on the principle of collective responsibility. Now, what is collective responsibility? The entire government is collectively responsible to the lower house of the parliament. That is the principle of parliamentary democracy. समझ में आया? ठीक है. तो यहां पर दो फीचर्स लिखना है पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी में. लिखिए पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी में. हाँ, देयर इज ceremonial or nominal figurehead of the government, of the state, and real power is held by the prime minister. Right? Prime minister is held the real power. Prime Minister holds the real power. And that's why, this form of government is also called parliamentarian form of government, right? Or the cabinet form of government, right? Or the Westminster form of government. Because UK, the Prime Minister, stays in the Westminster, right? And that's why it is called Westminster form of government. In this form of government, cabinet becomes very powerful. But cabinet is collectively responsible to the lower house of the parliament. समझ में आया? ठीक है श्वेता? So what happens in the parliamentary form of government? There is a ceremonial figurehead, and there is a real, and prime minister is a, right. So for example, India, example लेते हैं India में, who's a ceremonial figurehead? The president is a ceremonial figurehead. President is a ceremonial figurehead. And who's a real ceremonial figurehead? Who's a real ceremonial head? The president. And real power. If you look at real power held in prime minister. Right? Talk about UK. Here the crown. उस पोजीशन को बोलते हैं हम क्राउन. राजा जो रानी है, राजा है या रानी है, उसको बोलते हैं हम क्राउन. Right? And real held power is held by PM. Right? Similarly, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, अगर ऑस्ट्रेलिया को देखेंगे तो उनका सेरेमोनियल फिगर हेड कौन है? वही ब्रिटिश क्राउन. British crown is a ceremonial figurehead of the Australia, and real power head is held by PM. Got the idea? So there are two figurehead. One is the ceremonial figurehead, and other is real figurehead. Okay? And the parliamentary form of government is also known as the cabinet form of government, or the prime minister form of government, or Westminster form of government. So there are different names. ठीक है? क्या क्या नाम है इसका? प्राइम मिनिस्टेरियल फॉर्म और वेस्ट मिनिस्टर और कैबिनेट form of government. These are basics, right? I'm teaching you just basics. Presidential or Westminster or cabinet form of government. Now, if you look at this parliamentary form of government, actually functions on the principle of collective responsibility. There is no separation of power. Such a hard separation of power as it is exercised in US. Right here, there is a check and balance. There is a separation. Each organ of the government actually functions on their own, but there is a check and balance. There is a check and balance in parliamentary form of government. Now, what is collective responsibility? The government, right? Or you can write cabinet, or you can write executive. Both, all are same, right? Are collectively responsible to the lower house of the parliament, right? These are the basic fundamentals about the parliamentary form of government. Okay. Now come to the another. These are the two basic form of government around the globe. But apart from these two, there are mix of these two. Right? There are mix of two. It's called semi-presidential form of government. semi presidential form. Here you can find prime minister and president, both are elected, right? And what happens? Both enjoy power. Both enjoy power. Now कहाँ पर है ये? ये है फ्रांस में, श्रीलंका में, नेपाल में, this form of government exists. ठीक है? दोनों फॉर्म है यहाँ पर, राइट? होता क्या है कि प्रेसिडेंट इज हेड ऑफ द स्टेट who has power, right? In through the written constitution, and the prime minister is along with the other minister responsible to the lower house. ठीक है? यहाँ पर प्रॉब्लम तब होता है in this form of government. The real problem occurs when the president and the prime minister both are from the different party. Otherwise, what happens in this form of government? President and prime minister both are from the same party. Then there is no issue, right? But when there is a different party, for example, when there is election and president is from different party and prime minister is from the different party, then there is a conflict occurs. Okay? So there are three forms of representative democracy, right? Itna democracy ke liye bahut hai. Then there we have to study democracy. Then there are social democracy, there are participatory democracy, there are deliberative democracy, there are constitutional democracy, right? There are elitist theory of democracy. There are different forms of theory of democracy that we will discuss in the while we study or discuss the democracy concept. ठीक है? इतना बहुत है आपको अभी तक समझाने के लिए. Now come to the another form of government, republic. You know what happens in the republic? Head of the state is elected, right? Like India is a republic, but UK is not a republic. It is democratic, but it is not republic, right? Because the head of the state is not elected one. It is a hereditary post, है ना? उनके बच्चे ही head of the state बनते हैं. Japan is not a republic country. US is a republic country. US is a republic democracy, like India is a republic democracy, ठीक है? But Australia is not a republic democracy, right? मान लीजिए कल ऑस्ट्रेलिया अपने आप को वहां से हटा ले यूके से और वहां पर एक नॉमिनल फिगर हेड बना दे, कहां पर? ऑस्ट्रेलिया में. It will be a republic, ठीक है? Now, so that is a republic, right? Now, monarchy, it is a form of government where a person or the family rules. That is called monarchy. There can be good monarchy, there can be bad monarchy, right? Now, what is oligarchy? Oligarchy, सुना है कभी? What is oligarchy? And I'll talk about two types of government here. Oligarchy. Second, I'll talk about aristocracy. They are the older form of government, but yes, there was. We will discuss what is oligarchy, what is aristocracy. सुना है? क्या होता है मतलब? Rule by the नहीं. Aristocracy, is a form of government, a system government where a meritorious chosen people rules. Meritorious, talented, right? Chosen talented people rules, right? And they rules for the good of the people, the welfare of the people, right? They are meritorious, they are noble person, right? And they have knowledge, they have wisdom, right? They are virtuous. So they rule, right? Now, oligarchy is also a system of government where choosing people rules, but they are considered as a bad form of government, especially rules by the wealthy, right? When wealthy rules and they rules on for their own benefit, right? That is called oligarchy, right? Here, merit is a criteria. Here is a wealth is a criteria in oligarchy, right? Wealth is taken as a merit here, but here wealth is not a merit. Merit may be wisdom of the person, right? So, what is aristocracy? A system of government where few chosen meritorious people or talented people rules. That is called aristocracy. Hmm? Even if you look at during Mughal era, what used to be happen? Mughal used to some noble person, और उनको ये दे दिया कि आप इसको रूल करिए. You are a wise person, right? That is called aristocratic, right? Now consider उसने किसी wealthy को दे दिया, धनवान को, क्योंकि उसके पास पैसा है कि आप उसको गवर्न करिए. That would be the oligarchy, right? So what is again a system of government where few chosen, you know, people, bracket, often wealthy govern. Hmm? ठीक है, यहां पर क्या है? टैलेंट है, यहां पर मेरिट है. Merit is a criteria, right? And that merit can be anything. Like, for example, people may have wealth also, wisdom also, right? That is it. If you have wealth and you have merit, both are you can be the additional, talent. Hmm? But here, merit is not knowledge is not sought. Here, wealth is a primary criteria. Now, if you look at aristocracy, often rules for the good, for the welfare, but that is not guaranteed in oligarchy. Oligarchy always rules for their own benefit. ठीक है, उनको जो अच्छा लगेगा वही करेंगे. तो ये है oligarchy, aristocracy. Have you heard about timocracy? Timocracy सुना है? Rule by military. Like Myanmar is a country. Democracy का मतलब क्या है? Rule by military. For example, Sparta. Have you heard about Sparta? Sparta was a small state in ancient Greek city. That was Sparta was a timocracy, right? Or if you talk about here Myanmar, Myanmar is a democracy. Hmm? This is a form of democracy. Have you heard about plutocracy? सुना है? प्लूटस का मतलब क्या होता है? What is the meaning of Plutus? I've joined Plutus, I guess. प्लूटस का मतलब जिसने रखा हुआ क्या होता है? प्लूटस का मतलब What is the meaning of Plutus? No idea. Plutus का मतलब होता है, the god of rich. rich. जैसे in India there is a god called Kuber. सुना है? कुबेर कौन है? उसके पास wealth है ना बहुत, right? So plutocracy means rule by the rich. That is called plutocracy. Sometimes in India, it is actually argued. Look at our parliamentarian. Out of 10, 9 parliamentarians are crorepati in India, right? So sometimes it is, said that whether India is actually transformed from democracy to plutocracy. Only when where the people have money can be the victorious, can be the MLA, can be the MP, right? They can contest election. Only they have money. Sorry, oligarchy. Oligarchy में क्या होता है? That is this is this, oligarchy is also a system of government where few chosen people, right, govern. They are wealthy. They are wealthy, right? Only few people. Now in plutocracy, what happens? Many people can rule, who are the rich actually. Many people can, right? That be the one difference. Another difference. Oligarchy somehow it is better than the plutocracy. Right? But there is a plutocracy, only rich governs on for their own interest. Oligarchy may sometimes do good for the people. Okay? Right? Or does not exist plutocracy. बात नाम होता है बस, right? कभी कभी नाम लेते हैं, अब कोई नहीं है, नॉन देयर इज नो एरिस्टोक्रेसी, देयर इज नो ओलिगार्की, डेमोक्रेसी स्टिल एग्जिस्ट. ठीक है? हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट टायरनी? Have you heard about tyranny? When a single person actually becomes, very dictator kind of things, it is called tyranny. Right? For example, monarchy can be a tyrant. Right? A monarch can be a tyrant. Okay? So what is tyranny? When one person or family rules on rules for themselves only, and does not respect people's wish. That is called tyranny. That is called tyranny. Right? Monarchy often becomes tyranny. Monarchy is a good form, tyranny is a bad form. Like oligarchy and aristocracy, there is no difference. One difference is here only they rule for themselves. Right? In both the form of government, aristocracy and oligarchy, both are chosen, few chosen people rules. But they rules for the good of the people, the welfare of the people. In oligarchy, they govern for their own benefit. Right? Aristocracy tyranny में बहुत अंतर है. Autocracy, sometimes tyrants are autocratic. Tyrants are autocratic, of course. Right? Another similar form of government, one is called totalitarian. Have you heard about? Totalitarian. This is also a form of government. Now, if you look at here in totalitarian form of government, it is also run by the one people. along with their friends, their company, right? And they control all the sphere of people life. But in totalitarian government, they control social, economic, political, including individual, right, life of people, right, their personal life of individual, and they actually monopolizes on communication. This is a very modern form of government, totalitarian. This is 20th century government, right? Like Hitler, right? Or Mussolini, right? Or you can say that Stalin, Stalin in USSR, right? Mussolini in Italy, Hitler in Germany. This is new form of government. This is 20th century form of government. Where लिखिए इसको. What is totalitarian? A system of government in which one person with the help of their associates rules the country. And a totalitarian government controls social, economic, political, and personal life of individual. Personal life of individual. It controls basically. It monopolizes on the means of communication. It monopolizes the means of communication. Like media, right? There is no alternative source of media in totalitarian state. ऑटोक्रेसी में कभी कभी ये दिस इज एक्सट्रीम फॉर्म ऑफ ऑटोक्रेसी, थोड़ा अल्टरनेटिव अलाउ करते हैं, राइट? उनको जो मन होता है करते हैं, बट थोड़ा सा फ्रीडम भी होता है. टोटलिटेरियन में देयर इज नो इंडिविजुअल फ्रीडम, देयर इज नो पर्सनल फ्रीडम. Totalitarian, I told you that Hitler at the time of Germany. Yeah. Mussolini. Now currently, you can say Kim Jong can be called totalitarian, also autocratic, also totalitarian, also right. Tyrant also, right? Tyrant, totalitarian, autocracy, all are somehow it is used sometimes, often synonymously. एक दूसरे को interchangeably हम use कर सकते हैं, no issue at all. But when you say totalitarian, that it is extreme form of government, right? It monopolizes the means of communication like media and does not allow alternative source of information. राइट? कोई अल्टरनेटिव सोर्स ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं होता यहाँ पर. totalitarian form of government, राइट, ये एक्सट्रीम फॉर्म। अच्छा, इसका माइल्डर फॉर्म क्या होगा? माइल्डर फॉर्म ऑटोक्रेसी भी होगा, उसको हम ऑटोक्रेसी ऑथोरिटेरियन भी बोलते हैं, यू नो, ऑथोरिटेरियंस, राइट, द माइल्डर फॉर्म ऑफ टोटलिटेरियन, माइल्डर फॉर्म ऑफ totalitarians, you can say that, right? Like today is China, right? Or you can say that today is Russia. That is called authoritarian form of government, right? It is not totalitarian, but it is a very much authoritarian. You know, it controls media, it controls people's life, it controls everything. But sometimes they allow, okay, ठीक है, कर लो, लिख लो, लिखना है किताब लिख लो, किताब लिख लो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं। बट यहाँ पर तो कुछ भी नहीं करने देते हैं। In totalitarian form of government, the violence becomes the ends in itself. यहाँ पर क्या होता है, कुछ करने के लिए वायलेंस करता है। यहाँ पर वायलेंस बिकम्स द एंड्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट। वायलेंस बहुत करते हैं। Every totalitarians actually do violence. You know, they try to eliminate certain people. Like for example, Hitler tried to eliminate Jew. हाँ, ठीक है? So that is totalitarian form of government, and there is a authoritarian form of government. So these are the forms of government. One. China, Russia can be called authoritarian form of government. China and Russia can be called authoritarian, right? But they turn into totalitarian at any point of time. There's no issue, right? है ना? समझ में आया? Different forms of government. Now, if I talk about different forms of government, let me talk about the concept of a state. What important is state? Acha, have you heard about state? If you look at, you know, any political concepts that जिसको हमें पढ़ना है, जो भी पॉलिटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट है, जैसे हमें क्या क्या कौन कौन सा पॉलिटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट पढ़ना है, हमें पढ़ना है स्टेट, हमें पढ़ना है राइट्स, ये पॉलिटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट्स है, हमें पढ़ना है जस्टिस, हमें पढ़ना है फॉर डेमोक्रेसी, ये सब पॉलिटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट्स है, हमें पढ़ना है पावर, ये हमें पॉलिटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट्स पढ़ने हैं, है ना, राइट? नाउ ऐसे फिलोसफिकल कॉन्सेप्ट्स होते हैं, ऐसे रिलीजियस कॉन्सेप्ट होते हैं। तो कोई भी पॉलिटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट होगा ना, वो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट होता है। एब्स्ट्रैक्ट मतलब उसका शेप साइज नहीं होता, हम देख नहीं सकते उसको। वी कैन डिस्कस इट, वी कैन फील, बट वी कैन नॉट सी। लाइक रिलीजियस कॉन्सेप्ट है हेवन का। हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट हेवन? अच्छा काम करोगे तो स्वर्ग जाओगे। स्वर्ग देखा है कोई किसी ने? नहीं देखा है। एब्स्ट्रैक्ट कॉन्सेप्ट है, इसका कोई शेप नहीं है, कोई साइज नहीं है, कहीं मिलता नहीं है ये हेवन, बट हम डिस्कस करते हैं। हाँ, बहुत ऑफन वी एनकाउंटर, अरे अच्छा काम करोगे तो स्वर्ग जाओगे, कुछ गलत करे तुम नरक ही जाओगे आज, बोलते हैं ना। तो नरक, व्हाट इज दैट? हेल इज एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया, राइट? अब जैसे मान लो कि कोई कॉन्सेप्ट है जस्टिस, जस्टिस कोई देख नहीं सकता, we can discuss it, right? We can feel it, right? Similarly, state is a political concept. We cannot see state. It is an abstract idea. Abstract idea मतलब जिसका शेप नहीं है, साइज नहीं है, बट हम फील कर सकते हैं कि हाँ वो होता है भाई, वो होता है। हाँ, जैसे भगवान है, गॉड ने किसी ने गॉड को देखा नहीं, राइट? गॉड इज एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया, राइट? बट फील करते हैं, है ना? Similarly, state is a abstract idea. First thing that you should know, state is an abstract आइडिया, पहला ये समाज को आपको समझ में आना। एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया का क्या मतलब है कि कोई शेप नहीं है, साइज नहीं है, इट इज ए फिलोसॉफिकल आइडिया। देयर इज नो शेप, देयर इज नो साइज, बट वी कैन फील इट, क्या स्टेट होता है। किसी ने स्टेट को देखा नहीं है, ना मैंने देखा ना आपने देखा, किसी ने नहीं देखा, राइट। अब तो फिर ये कौन रिप्रेजेंट करता है स्टेट को? नाउ इफ यू लुक एट द समटाइम्स द police represent the state, bureaucracy represent the state, but they are part of government, right? But they represent state, right? So if you look at what is a state, state is a collection of public institutions, public institutions, right? For example, police, military, right? Prison, bureaucracy, huh? Like local government, all represent the state. All represents, वो सबको, सब स्टेट को रिप्रेजेंट करता है, राइट? इट इज एन एब्स्ट्रैक्ट, एवरी पॉलिटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट इज एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया, ठीक है? एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया, एब्स्ट्रैक्ट मतलब क्या होता है? उसका शेप साइज नहीं है भाई, राइट? वी कैन नॉट से कि इतना साइज उसका 5 किलो का होता है, या उसका मास, मास नहीं होता, हम वी कैन नॉट, we can feel it, we can discuss it, we cannot say it, right? There are such abstract ideas on this earth, right? Religion में से God, heaven, God का, heaven का, hell का होता है, right? Oh, that is government. It is a collection of public institution. Government is not a state. Now look at, they are part of government. The all collective institutions are a part of government. नहीं, but government is not a state. A state is a wider connotation. Government is only part of the state. है ना? है ना? अगर आप देखेंगे कि state has 4 elements at least. State has 4 essential elements. राइट? अब वो 4 essential element क्या क्या है? एक तो है कि गवर्नमेंट, गवर्नमेंट की बात हुई तो लिख देता हूं पहला गवर्नमेंट, राइट? दूसरा है कि टेरिटरी, तीसरा है पॉपुलेशन, पीपल, राइट? चौथा है सोवर्निटी, फोर्थ इज सोवर्निटी। ये 4 इसेंशियल एलिमेंट है। अब बोलोगे सर ये इसेंशियल एलिमेंट कहां से आया, किसने कहा ये इसेंशियल एलिमेंट? क्या आपने कहा? आपने ये थ्योरी दी, किसी ने तो बोला होगा, राइट? नाउ लेट मी टेल यू, इन 1933 देयर वाज an international conference called as a Montevideo conference where it was agreed internationally that a state should have 4 criteria, राइट? कौन सा कॉन्फ्रेंस था? Montevideo. In 1933, Montevideo Conference, there was an agreement, right? That there shall be 4 essential elements of a state. What are the essential elements of the state? The government, territory, people, पीपल पॉपुलेशन ऑन सोवरेनिटी, राइट। तो जो भी मैंने आपको पब्लिक इंस्टीट्यूशन कहा है ये सब गवर्नमेंट है, मिलिट्री गवर्नमेंट का पार्ट है, पुलिस गवर्नमेंट का पार्ट है, प्रिजन गवर्नमेंट का पार्ट है, ब्यूरोक्रेसी गवर्नमेंट का पार्ट है, लोकल गवर्नमेंट गवर्नमेंट है, राइट। ये स्टेट को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, स्टेट है नहीं। स्टेट हैज लार्जर कनोटेशन, राइट। बट हम जब स्टेट कोर्ट में जाते हैं तो इन्हीं के खिलाफ जाते हैं, राइट। पुलिस अगर आपको कुछ करती है तो आप कोर्ट के पास जाते हो, है ना, है ना। ब्यूरोक्रेसी कोई हार्म करती है आपको तो आप कोर्ट में जाते हो उनके खिलाफ, राइट, बिकॉज एक्चुअली दे रिप्रेजेंट स्टेट। समझ में आया? स्टेट हैज लार्जर कनोटेशन। यस श्वेता, am I making sense about state? What the idea? Right. So if you see, sometimes a state is a unit, a territorial unit. Is a territorial unit. Example, US, India, Canada, and Japan. This is what called a state. Japan is a state, Canada is a state, India is a state, US is a state. So उस टाइम में हम यूज करते हैं ना। देखो चेंज यहाँ पर अलग, मतलब अलग हो गया। यहाँ पर पब्लिक बॉडी नहीं है, केवल ज्यादा है, राइट। सो वी ऑफ समटाइम्स वी यूज स्टेट someone as a territorial unit. समझ में आया? ठीक है। मैंने कहा कि एग्जैक्टली डिफाइन नहीं है। एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया मतलब क्या है कि इसका डिफिनेशन रीडिफाइन होता रहता है। व्हाट इज गॉड, कोई एग्जैक्ट डिफिनेशन नहीं है कि आज गॉड का डिफिनेशन बाबा रामदेव क्या दे रहे हैं या रैशनलिस्ट है वो क्या दे रहे हैं, राइट। जैसे साईं का सुना होगा, साईं गॉड है ना, साईं बाबा, उसने कहा गॉड एक है, सबका मालिक एक है, उसने गॉड को डिफाइन कर दिया। उससे पहले गॉड को ऑलरेडी डिफाइन कर दिया। Similarly, a state had been defined and redefined multiple times. Got the idea? Right? तो क्या definition था? Multiple definition हो सकता है, fine? And yeah, now come to the state is a territorial unit like US, Canada, Japan is all a state. Now, if you look at apart from it, इसको थोड़ा सा हम expand करेंगे, right? इस जो idea है कि इज इट आज जैसे आज यूएस था तो कल 500 साल पहले भी यूएस था क्या? और क्या आज इंडिया है तो क्या 500 साल पहले ऐसे ही इंडिया था इसी तरह जो आज है? राइट? नहीं था, राइट। सो हाउ दिस स्टेट इवॉल्व, हाउ स्टेट इवॉल्व, दैट यू कैन टॉक अबाउट। लुक एट द थोड़ा सा एक छोटा सा टॉपिक दे सकते हैं इसी के अंदर, इवोल्यूशन ऑफ स्टेट। आप देखेंगे 200 साल पहले कुछ ही स्टेट थे, आज 193 स्टेट है। मेडिवल टाइम में क्या स्टेट का फॉर्मेशन था, राइट, जैसे आप कह रहे हैं। और एंशिएंट टाइम में क्या स्टेट था, राइट। जो पहला जो स्टेप्स हुआ, पहला जो फॉर्मेशन हुआ स्टेट का, दैट वाज कॉल्ड स्मॉल सिटी स्टेट, राइट, और टाइनी सिटी स्टेट। If you look at the ancient Greek city-state, there was more than 100 state, right? A small city-state like Athens, Sparta, Miletus, Coronate. There was a different state. Now in India, there was a Mahajanpad, different Mahajanpad, right? So the first evolution was the tiny city-state. Tiny city-state. This was an ancient formation of state, right? वो लोगों ने अपना आपस में इकट्ठा किया और रहना शुरू किया, right? Tiny city state. Okay, in ancient time, and a state evolved as small city state, right? Like Athens, Sparta, Mahajanpad, right? etc. That was a smaller city state in ancient time, right? Now the next stage was actually this city state becomes larger. An empire was established. अगर आपने हिटलर नहीं, सिकंदर का नाम सुना है, right? Alexander the Great. Now there was a small city state called Macedonia in Greek, right? And that small ruler of Macedonia becomes actually try to capture the other, then capture the other, and it established an empire. Later on, Rome established empire, right? And later on, if you look at in India, Mauryan established big empire in India. Suna hai na Mauryan empire. Now, if you look at Middle East, there was a Babylon empire. So there was a new beginning of state, right? As a territorial unit. The big empire was called, so it was called Empire Age, right? And that Empire Age continued till 17th or 16th century. Look at in India, there was a Mughal Empire, right? And then in the Middle East, there was an Ottoman Empire, right? In the Europe, there was a Habsburg Empire and Bourbon Empire. बड़े बड़े एम्पायर थे. अब जो एम्पायर टूटा है ना, उसके बाद देयर वाज नेशन स्टेट. समझ में आया? राइट. सो यू कैन राइट second evolution is empire state. Empire age you can write, or empire state you can write. Later on, big empire was established. Later on, big empire was established in the west as well as in the east. Later on, big empire was established in the west as well as in the east. Like Mauryan Empire, Roman Empire, Mauryan Empire, Roman Empire, etc. etc. This empire age continued till 15th and 16th century. This empire age continued till 15th and 16th century. This empire age continued till 15th and 16th century. Like Mughal Empire and Ottoman Empire in Asia, like Mughal, Mughl, Mughal Empire, Empire, and Ottoman Empire, Ottoman, Ottoman Empire in Asia, and Habsburg. Burg, Berg, and Bourbon Empire in the west. In the west. Bourbon Empire in the west. The empire collapsed the empire collapsed, and a new territorial unit, territorial units evolved, called as nation state, called as nation state. Am I making sense? ठीक है? Now the third form of is a nation state. Nation state. Okay, it is a modern form of. It is a modern form of territorial unit. Territorial units. In the West, France, England, Spain, Holland were the early nation state. Nation state. And later on, states like Germany and Italy evolved. ये बाद में, ये तो आपको 19th सेंचुरी में जर्मनी और इटली का इवोल्यूशन होता है, जर्मनी का एकीकरण होता है. There is a unification of Germany by the Bismarck, and Italy was unified by Garibaldi and Mazzini. Right? So that was a modern nation state. Right? We are living in this form of state. Right? Still it is evolving. हाँ, तो उसके बाद ही हमारा जो ब्रिटेन कब्जा किया, ब्रिटेन के बाद हमारे यहाँ नेशन स्टेट बाद में इवॉल्व हुआ है. ठीक है, उनके यहाँ वेस्ट में पहले हो गया, अलग अलग कारण थे. ठीक है, चाइना में बाद में हुआ है. कहाँ? हाँ, 16th century. Yeah, if you look at the 16th century, till 17th century, Europe में it was actually continued till 17th century. Look at, there's a war, right? The 30 years war in US between the two empires, Habsburg and Bourbon, right? And that through that war, entire things were collapsed. And there was a Treaty of Westphalia. सुने हो? Treaty of Westphalia. Now, Treaty of Westphalia brought one concept, that is the concept of nation state. That is the concept of sovereignty, right? है ना? So वो 15th century में 17th century तक, कहीं पर 18th century तक वो continued रहा है. एक टाइम पे कुछ ऐसा नहीं रहा कि एक ही टाइम पे सारा कुछ आ गया, नहीं. It took time. Now if you look at Asia, it was the 20th century when nation state evolved. हमारा जो देश बना है 1950 में बना है, इंडिया, है ना? इंडिया, पाकिस्तान, बांग्लादेश, श्रीलंका, इंडोनेशिया, जो भी साउथ ईस्ट एशिया है, वो 20th सेंचुरी में बना है. तो 15 सेंचुरी से लेके आपको देखेंगे 16 सेंचुरी से लेकर के और अभी तक 21st सेंचुरी तक, राइट, स्टेट बन ही रहे. The recent state has been formed in Africa, that is called South Sudan. साउथ सुडान जो बना है, राइट, 2014 के आसपास, राइट. तो ये अभी चल ही रहा है, समझ में? ठीक है. सो एक टाइम नहीं है कि इसी टाइम पे ऐसा हुआ, उस टाइम पे शुरुआत हुआ, राइट. इंग्लैंड पहले, इसे सब पहले कंट्री थी जो इवॉल्व होके आई थी. स्पेन, हॉलैंड, इंग्लैंड. Making sense, right? Now, what the idea? So we were talking about a state basically. State is an abstract idea, right? What the idea? It is a collection of public institutions like military, prison, bureaucracy, local government, all represent state, right? It is a public body like parliament represents state. थोड़ा आप लोग आर्टिकल 12 अगर इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को देखेंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा. Now आर्टिकल 12 defines Indian state, right? क्या क्या है अंडर आर्टिकल 12? What are the state? Very good. Government of India and Parliament, government of state and the state legislature and then local government and then other bodies. Yeah, so those all are state, right? तो वो इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के हिसाब से, right? यहाँ पर हम थियोरिटिकली भी पढ़ रहे हैं, ठीक है? यहाँ पे थोड़ा ब्रॉडर है. Now, a state is not only a collection of public institutions. A state is also, law also represents a state. जैसे रेड लाइट हो जाता है और हम अपना गाड़ी रोक देते हैं, राइट? या हम शादी नहीं कराते हैं 18 साल से पहले बच्चों का. क्यों? क्योंकि हम लॉ को ऑब्जर्व कर रहे होते हैं, राइट? और समटाइम्स ड्यूरिंग कोविड-19 वी स्टेड inside the home, right? Because there was a national lockdown, right? There was disaster management act that was implemented, a pandemic act that was implemented. We followed the mask. Government ने कहा कि mask पहन लो, एक physical distance maintain करो, right? So a state is not only a collection of public institutions. A state is also a set of law, rules, business of the government that also represents state. समझ में आया? Right? So if you look at, a state is also represented by law, rules, order, notification, ordinance, right? State is also represented by law, rules, order, notification, ordinance, and business of the government. यह बिजनेस का मतलब बिजनेस नहीं है, वो कमर्शियल बिजनेस नहीं. बिजनेस का मतलब है द वर्क ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, राइट? द वर्क ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. So state actually not represented only by the public institution, right? Rules also represent the state. Law represents the state, right? Order represents the state. Notification represents the state. Ordinance represents the state. All business, all work of the government represent the state, right? मैंने क्या कहा? स्टेट का एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया है, इसका एक डिफिनेशन नहीं है, मल्टीपल डिफिनेशन. जो भी एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडिया होगा उसका मल्टीपल डिफिनेशन होगा. हाँ, उसका जैसे गॉड है, उसका कोई रूप नहीं है, कोई निराकारी है, कोई साकारी है. साकार लोग मानते हैं कि गॉड हर जगह पे है ना, गॉड मूर्ति में है, राइट? निराकार मानते कि नहीं, गॉड का एक प्रॉपर शेप नहीं है, राइट? गॉड किसी भी रूप में हो सकता है ना? Similarly, every political concepts, any abstract idea have no proper shape. It has been defined and redefined on several occasions. आप भी डिफाइन कर सकते क्या ये स्टेट हो सकता है? यू कैन कॉन्टेस्ट, राइट? सोशल साइंस में कुछ फिक्स नहीं है साइंस के हिसाब से, राइट? साइंस में तो सब कुछ फिक्स है ना? उसके फर्दर आपको जाना पड़ेगा. सोशल साइंस में कुछ भी फिक्स नहीं है, इट्स ए डायनेमिक वन, राइट? समझ में आया? स्टेट इज ऑल्सो रिप्रेजेंटेड बाय रूल्स, order, notification, ordinance, and business of the government. समझ में आया? Now, if you look at, a state has only monopoly on violence within its own territory. I cannot do violence. Plutus cannot do violence, but a state can. Right? Now, if you look at, there was a famous scholar whose name is Max Weber, and Max Weber argues that state is a collection of association. It is a association of people, right, who has monopoly over legitimate violence within its own territory. Like Indian government represents state. Now it has monopoly over violence. ये कहीं पर भी वायलेंस कर सकता है विद इन इट्स ऑन टेरिटरी, राइट? लद्दाख में हो या छत्तीसगढ़ में हो या दिल्ली में हो, कहीं पर भी वायलेंस कर सकता है. इट कैन पोजेस वायलेंट वेपन. उसके पास वायलेंट वेपन हो सकता है, एक न्यूक्लियर वेपन हो सकता है, बंदूक हो सकता है, रिवॉल्वर हो सकता है. आई कैन नॉट कीप इट, राइट? और प्लूटस आईएस कैन नॉट कीप इट, है ना? कौन कीप कर सकता है? स्टेट. व्हाई? स्टेट बिकॉज स्टेट हैज मोनोपोली ओवर. नो अदर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैव लेजिटिमेसी ओवर द वायलेंस एक्सेप्ट स्टेट. मुझे बता दीजिए स्टेट के अलावा कोई वायलेंस कर सकता है? कोई कर सकता है? कोई भी, मान लो बीजेपी वायलेंस कर सकती है? नहीं कर सकती. कांग्रेस कर सकती है? कोई भी नहीं कर सकता. या रिलायंस कर सकता है? रिलायंस बहुत बड़ा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, राइट? क्या रिलायंस कॉर्पोरेट जो ग्रुप है वो वायलेंस कर सकता है? नहीं कर सकता, राइट? वो स्टेट करती है. हमेशा स्टेट को एक लेजिटिमेसी होती है वायलेंस करने का, राइट? लोग एक्सेप्ट करते कि हाँ पुलिस के पास गन है तो ठीक है, अगर मैं गन लेके चलूंगा फिर दिक्कत हो जाएगी. नहीं ना, आप भी बोलेंगे मुझे भी गन चाहिए, सर गन लेके आते पता नहीं कब चला दे. हाँ, तो मेरे पास गन रहेगा तो बैलेंस रहेगा, सर को पता होगा कि चलाएंगे तो ये भी निकाल के मारेगा, है ना? तो इफ यू लुक एट स्टेट हैज मोनोपोली ओवर. समझ में आया? लिख सकते हैं, राइट? स्टेट इज an association which has monopoly over legitimate violence. within its territory. ये टेरिटरी के बियॉन्ड वायलेंस नहीं करेगा, फिर तो दिक्कत हो जाएगी. चाइना अपने अंदर वायलेंस कर सकता है, वो लद्दाख में करता है तो फिर गड़बड़ हो जाता है. हाँ, इंडिया रिटेलिएट करता है, प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है, राइट? सो स्टेट इज एन एसोसिएशन, राइट? राइट, and which has monopoly over the legitimate violence within its own territory, right? Got the idea? Acha, we have 5 minutes and then one more concept I would like to talk about, that is sovereignty. ना है ये concept? It's a very modern concept, very modern. Sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Supreme control. Literal meaning होता है supreme control, right? It is an essential element of a state. Element of state. Without sovereignty, state cannot be called sovereign. One territory cannot be called a state. Like, look at the Bangladesh. It was East Pakistan before 1971. Now, if you look at the East Pakistan, it had government, right? It had population, it had territory, but it had no sovereignty. In absence of sovereignty, it was not an independent state, right? When actually it got sovereignty, it turned into Bangladesh. It turned into Bangladesh. What the idea? So sovereignty is an essential element of state, right? State का मतलब क्या होता है? Supreme control, right? Right? So consider ये किया जाता है कि state has supreme control over its own decision or on its own matter, right? Whether it is an internal matter or whether it is a external matter. A state has supreme control over its domestic matter as well as the international matter, and that's why a state is called sovereign body, right? Sovereignty होते हैं उनके पास, right? So if you look at that is called of sovereignty. Now here you must have Treaty of Westphalia. सुना है क्या? सुना है ट्रीटी ऑफ वेस्टफेलिया? नहीं सुना? ओके, ये हुआ था 1648 में, 17th century में. Now, Treaty of Westphalia actually was the result after the 30 years war that Europe faced between two empires, Habsburg and Bourbon. But that war was actually, included many things. Like it was also war between the, Catholic Church and the Protestant, right? It was so. But if you look at Treaty of Westphalia, established the idea of sovereignty, right? What Treaty of Westphalia established? It established idea of sovereignty, right? There was a two principle of Treaty of Westphalia that still we believe and international affair works. Right? The first is, right, the each nation state, whether small or big, are equal. Right? Each nation state, comma, big or small, each nation state is equal. Right? And second, it was said that no nation state is allowed to interfere in others' matter. No state is allowed to interfere in another's domestic matter. No state is allowed to interfere in another's domestic matter. It means each state is sovereign. Each state is sovereign. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि हर स्टेट अपने आप में सोवर्ण है. ठीक है, लिख लिया? डन, लिख लीजिए. Each nation state is sovereign. ठीक है, कल थोड़ा सा 2-3 टर्म है जैसे लेजिटिमेसी क्या होता है, पावर, वो डिस्कस करके एंड वी विल स्टार्ट प्लेटो. क्या सैंक्शन लगा देता है ये, तो वो लगा सकते हैं, उसके इंटरनल मैटर बाहर से लगा सकते हैं. हम बिजनेस नहीं करेंगे, मत कर, राइट? दैट इज, वो करता नहीं है. इंटरफेयर कौन करता है? अमेरिका चिल्लाता रहता है चाइना के बदले में, चाइना को कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता, राइट? ठीक है, तो आज इतना ही, कल मिलते हैं. Okay, see you.